created by Karen O'Loughlin. In this video, we are going to mimic our pseudocode that we had for the parallel arrays in Java. So in Java, when you declare an array with an initialization list here on line 4, we include the data type, we include a square bracket, we have the name of the array, and then we have the initialization list inside curly braces. So please note that we are using curly braces here. Likewise, we've initialized our integer inventory, and then I have declared a variable for the size of the inventory. I'm indicating that that is a constant, so we're going to declare it as a constant using the final keyword in Java. And then I'm starting an index value at 0. So the first thing that we are going to do is, our goal, remember, is to output the data in 2 columns, one for items and one for inventory. Whenever you process an array, we need a loop. The first example, because it is mimicking the pseudocode, we are going to use a while loop. So while index is less than size, please notice the use of the constant. We are going to output, and we are going to create 2 columns. We learned earlier in a video that you can output using tabs. So I'm going to use a tab in order to declare columns, and I might need 2 tabs because I have stress ball, which is kind of a long name, and then I'm going to have inventory for the titles on my columns. I want to go ahead and execute this to see if I have my column title set up, but before I do that, I need to make sure that I update my loop control variable, otherwise I create an infinite loop. So let's run our parallel array example and see if we have our columns set up. So I have an issue. I am printing my column titles inside my loop, so you can see that it prints 5 times or however many items I have. I don't want that. I only want my column titles once outside the loop. So we are going to take that code and put our column titles outside the loop. This also exposes a flaw in my pseudocode. So pseudocode is great for organizing your logic, but sometimes it's not 100% correct. So when we get to doing our coding, then we need to adjust for that. Now we want to print the values that are stored in those 2 arrays in our 2 columns. And so in order to do that, we're going to use a print line statement, and we use the name of the array, item, and we need a square bracket, and we put in the index. Our next column is going to be the inventory array with the same index value because they are stored at like indices. We also need to put in our tabs. Those are escape sequences, so they have to be included inside quotes between both of the columns. When we execute this code, we are hoping to see our column data lined up. And what we see is a small discrepancy. It's looking pretty good except for our one piece of data that goes beyond the tab or the default tab width. So if we try to fix it by adding another tab, sometimes that works. It depends on what language we're in and the rules for that language. But in this particular case, that's not going to solve it. So actually lining those items up using tabs is not going to work. We would have to use additional special formatting, and that's beyond the scope of this class at this time. So this video showed us how to declare 2 arrays, how to create a constant to hold the length of the array, how to print using 2 columns, even though that didn't work out the best for us. And it uses a while loop to do so. Our pseudocode had used a while loop, so that's what we used in order to start out this video. But the for loop is also a loop used with arrays, and honestly, it's probably more prevalent. You can see this will produce the exact same results as our while loop. The body of the loop is exactly the same as in our while loop, The only difference is that your initialization, your guard, and your update for the for loop are all completed here in the beginning of the for loop in one compact statement. So it's often a loop that is preferred when working with arrays, so feel free to use this when you work with your arrays.